I just grew a new hair.
The reason why I bought that, what is this? Moonshine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Moonshine apple pie. I was specifically watching TikTok, and there's this army vet in there who was like, it's fall season. He's like, so he takes, what is it? Not apples. It's a type of beer. He takes Fireball and Moonshine. So it's like apple. I want to say, I forget the apple. I forget the beer. But he mixes those together.
It's like Reds.
It's not Reds, but it's a seasonal beer though.
Okay.
I'll have to look it up when I look up later. But he takes those three. He takes a shot of Fireball, shot of Moonshine, apple pie, and then the seasonal like apple cider beer, and he mixes it all together. Boy, I was pretty lit. I had like 3 of those, and I was done.
I cannot do fucking...
It was delicious though.
I can't do Fireball anymore.
And he had apple juice in there too. He put apple juice in there too. So like it levels out the, I guess, the bite of the Moonshine apple pie. And you were like, oh, there's a little bit of apple juice, there's a little bit of Fireball, so you get that cinnamon taste.
Yeah.
He's like, I taste the beer and I get the fizz of the beer. And then you're like, but it's just so much alcohol in there. I was like, I was a cosmetologist, mixologist.
Again, real quick, if the smoking ever bothers anyone, please let me know.
No, you're good.
Welcome to episode 2. We're rolling. All right.
We've been rolling.
Yeah, I know.
We got the whole apple juice story.
So, the route of this podcast episode is going to be solely revolving around video games, what it means to us, the culture behind it, just anything video games.
Some of our favorites.
And at any point during this podcast, if we can think of a name for the podcast, the goal is at the end of the podcast, we have a name for it.
Listeners that
you can't finish the podcast without the name.
Listeners that we don't have, who aren't tuned in, tweet us ideas.
Yeah, but we're not on Twitter.
We're not on Twitter.
None of us have Twitter, but send it anyway.
We're all anti-social media.
Snapchat me. Wait, don't Snapchat me.
Don't actually, yeah.
Okay,
Don't.
so
My wife won't like it.
But anyway, I'm Blake.
Jarvis,
And I'm Greg.
same 3 from last episode. We might mix up, our
Repertoire.
people that show up. These are the most loyal so far, 2 in a row. All right, so obviously there's tons of major video games that have probably played different roles in our lives. Like, first video game you like really got into, your favorite video game. What video game like you had at a hard time? Because sometimes video games can be an escape.
I guess we should start. Probably like what game got you into gaming? Like, where did it begin?
It began with my grandmother.
oh, we're going back. Back in 1940s, bro.
She had an NES at her house.
Yeah.
And, that's the first, major gaming I had experienced is going to my grandma's house and playing the NES, playing Mario, and she had the 64, too. I don't know if she had that later, but I remember playing, Donkey Kong,
I think everyone was exposed.
all the classic Nintendo games,
Everyone was
Zelda.
exposed to Mario. I think that Mario's literally the gateway drug to video games.
Yeah.
Even if I had to say what formed me into a gamer, there's 2 games near and dear in my heart. And they're particularly RPG games when I was younger. Because a little segue about me when I was younger, I was illiterate. Couldn't read for shit, didn't like reading for the most part, but I loved RPGs. And Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah, that must have been rough not being able to read.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy IX was the first Final Fantasy game because I tried to play 7, I tried to play 8, and I couldn't do it. But something about 9, my mom was like, hey, I want Final Fantasy 9, and she bought it for me. And I think at that point in time, I was reading a lot of comic books. I was finding stuff that I enjoyed reading that kind of funneled me in a direction, so I was getting a good basis from there at that point that when I got that game, I wanted to play it so bad, and it was so difficult for me to figure out what to do because I'm I just can't figure out what this means. I use a lot of guidebooks, but that game was probably the first game. To this day, I'll say that game taught me how to read. So, even if it's people are biased, I'm oh, it's the worst Final Fantasy game ever, I don't like it. I was that game, played a vital role in just, my development as a human being for the most part. But, the story and the graphics at that time on PlayStation 1 were just so, mind-blowing to me as a child that I was just I I go back now and there's like, man, this game is still amazing. And I still hate playing Fierce, whatever the rat chick was, because she leaves on the second disc, and comes back at level 16 because they don't fucking level sync her with the next people that I never use her again. But I think I need to go back and play that game. But like that's my near and dear like childhood game. I have another one, but
I like that you said like how that helped you learn. Like
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
interesting because I remember joking about it in high school, but it was so true. It's like how much I'm learning here in the public education system compared to how much I'm learning from video games.
Yeah.
Like because video games are sometimes pretty in depth and force you to go
yeah.
through different thinking puzzles, different ways of like processing information and stuff. Pretty sure I learned how nuclear reactors work from video games. Like,
Man.
they're teaching me like, oh yeah, Columbus, he's the discoverer of America. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. This is what we're teaching you.
Yeah.
And
At the
I'm over
at the
here
time,
playing
it was considered
Minecraft
true, yeah.
with like a mod on it, and I'm like, oh, like I'm building like factories and understanding nuclear fission and fusion, and it's just I think because of the passion behind video games, like you actually enjoy it. And I think it's hard to learn when you don't enjoy something. And video game is just like an easy way to help you learn something because it's so enjoyable. You get pulled in. It's like you want to learn because it's like you're in that world. You have to learn to thrive there.
Yeah, I forced myself. Like I struggled so bad. I'm like, I probably don't remember a lot of storyline as I do now, but I made it to the end and I beat the game. And I was like, there was points where I was very, very frustrated because it'd be the simplest thing and I could not figure out what to do. And I'm like, it was a lot of trial and error of like, oh, try this cutscene, try this conversation pattern. And then eventually, like, I did it enough that I'm just like, okay, this makes sense. Like, all right, that makes sense. And then correlating names and all that other stuff. But it is true, like, people like, video games rot your brain. And like, we fast forward to 2020, like, oh, if you're an elder, you should probably be playing video game because it makes your cognitive sense, like, even better for you. It's like, it counteracts even some of these ailments that you may have because it's like it's forcing your brain to think in abstract ways, puzzle solve, like
Helps a lot with hand-eye
Memorization.
coordination.
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, memorization. Man. No, yeah, I'm dumb as shit because I I didn't finish a game until I was probably like 13 or 14.
Yeah.
I was fucking awful at video games, and like my first exposure was with the PlayStation 1. as
Speaking
well.
of, I don't know about you, but on the PlayStation 1, I don't think many people were finishing games when you didn't have a memory card.
That was the thing too.
You
And, like,
restart every time you turn on your console.
and that kind of plays into my story how fucking dumb I was because I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, and my dad had this PlayStation 1, and like we had this stack of discs that it was probably 3 inches tall, and it was just discs, so they all got scratched to shit. Most of them were fucking useless. But I think like
what games were you playing on the PlayStation 1?
So this is the one that will always stick out in my mind was fucking Metal Gear Solid.
Oh,
Yes.
I was ready for that one.
And
Yes.
and let me tell you, I have never made it past like 30 fucking minutes in that game because I was a dumb 6-year-old and I just didn't understand what was happening. And then the thing is, I was too fucking dumb to know what a memory card was. So every time I put the game in, I just started from the beginning and doing a little tutorial. And I was just like, "Yep, this is video games. I'm having a great time."
This is the status quo.
Next up is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I'm just gonna mash a bunch of buttons. This
Do
is
you
a
remember?
blast.
Do you remember demo disc?
Yes, yeah.
So that's where I got introduced to Metal Gear Solid, and to be truth, like Metal Gear Solid is 100% one of my favorite franchises.
Side note: if you hear any crinkling, that's just our box of cookies.
Yeah, it was like that was literally one of my favorite. That's like I'm a huge Final Fantasy guy. Like I play 14, but Metal Gear Solid and Hideo Kojima. I'm like, I remember playing 4, and I'd sit down. I'm like, I'm about to watch a movie. Like these cutscenes are 45 minutes long. Like I would literally get snacks because that's how long I knew the cutscenes were going to go. But segueing back to the demo disc. I remember when they used to give me demo gifts and they had like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Metal Gear Solid, and I would always play that game.
It was just like
didn't read the name.
one level of each.
Yeah, it was the very first level. Didn't read the name, never beat the demo. So I hate to say it to you guys, I've never beat Metal Gear Solid 1, but I've beaten 2 onward. But like that was my introduction to Metal Gear Solid series. That's kind of bad that I'm like, that's my favorite genre and I've never beaten one.
It's funny because I feel like Metal Gear Solid is the reason why my dad doesn't play video games anymore. Like he recently started because they won like a PlayStation in a fucking raffle or whatever. And I have 2 younger sisters, so they'll play shit on that. But like my dad made it to the final boss of Metal Gear Solid. And I guess with the first one, you're supposed to like take the controller port out and plug it into the other one because he takes control of you.
Psycho Mantis.
Yeah.
I've seen so many cutscenes about this guy.
So my dad, and I just remember him getting fucking, and we'd like moved houses since I started playing this shit. And like we're at this new house, my dad's playing, and he's just pissed off. Like he made it all the way through, and he's like, I can't fucking do this anymore.
Psycho Mantis, like this is what the genius is about behind Kojima is like he adds so many layers and different ways to beat bosses that he took it even one step further on the PlayStation 1. Like Psycho Mantis would legit read your memory card and like tell you the game you were playing in its dialogue. It literally would make you switch ports. Like if you're player 1, it would make you have to switch from player 1 port to player 2 port to continue fighting. It would literally invert your controllers, like up is down, down is up, left is right, so on and so forth. It's like if you go from that,
which is fucking genius for the time, like literally using every aspect of gaming, like so early on in the fucking like gaming world.
And he took that even steps further. Even in Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, you had to walk down this like river, like it's like basically like a river of Styx, and literally it could literally be like 5 seconds, or it can be like an hour, even more, depending how many people you've killed in the game until that point. And you would literally pass every single spirit that you killed in the game. And I was like, bro, when is this going to end? I think I walked for like 30 minutes straight. And I was like, when is this going to end? Like, is this really the level? Fast forward to 2020, I learned to like, that was like, how many people you killed? That's why you did that.
Yeah,
I was like,
crazy.
What?
My PlayStation 1 games consisted of Quake 2, Soul Blade, and Tekken.
I used to play Tekken.
And
with
of
my
course,
brothers a
Crash
lot.
Bandicoot.
Yeah.
And there was like a demolition derby type game.
Oh, Twisted Metal.
Maybe.
It has to be
dude,
Twisted
fucking,
Metal.
we had Twisted Metal
The
4.
ice cream truck with the clown on the top?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. I think y'all may be wrong.
It has to be Twisted Metal.
I don't know.
Really?
That's a classic.
It is. So we had Twisted Metal 4 on the PlayStation, and that was one that was so fucked up.
Oh,
like,
that was...
You'd be lucky.
Man.
I would sit and stare at the loading screen for like 30 minutes, and then finally it'd kick on. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. And then Rob Zombie was a character in that one. It was a blast.
That game took so long.
All right, then.
On the gaming thing and just how dumb I was as a gamer, I was like 13, 14, and behind the times. I had like an original Xbox and a PS2. And at this point, the 360 and the PlayStation 3 had been out for like several years.
Oh, shit.
So like, yeah, I
would have never hung out with you.
No, for real. Like, I'd go over to my friend's house and I'd feel like an idiot because they're like talking about all these games. They have all this information. I'm just like, yeah, my mom has a NES. It's fucking dope, dude. I play Duck Hunt all the time.
They didn't know about the culture.
And like, I didn't know that games could be beat. Actually, like that's how dumb. Like I was playing.
Levels are procedural generated.
Yeah,
They just
no,
keep
I
going
fucking
forever.
And it was, and you guys are gonna laugh, but it was fucking Aragon, like the video game adaptation of the movie Aragon.
I had that game.
Yeah.
That was a good game.
Yeah, I had that on Xbox, and I fucking it was fun, and I completed it, and I finished it. And I was like, holy shit. This can come to an end, and then immediately I'm putting in my fucking video game adaptation of Ice Age, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking play Scrat and beat this shit.
My memory of Aragon, I remember I was playing, and I don't remember how old I was, not that old, but I had my controller behind my head, and I was playing without looking at it, and I remember my parents being like, wow, you must be really good to not have to look at the controller to play, because it's like behind my head. I'm like, does anyone ever look at the controller? Like, I don't look at it when it's in front of me either. Like,
you hold it right in front of your face, like just peeking over so you can fucking.
It's interesting how like when younger generations like into something that's like new, it just got introduced or something. It's just like new culture and stuff, and how their outlook is compared to yours is normal to you.
It's interesting how like we're saying it's new at like the PlayStation 1 level. Really, gaming had been out for like 30, 40 years.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it started with Pong, and then like you had arcades and shit, and then finally they could fucking compress it enough.
That was a good one.
I had Pong on the Atari. We had
the different
Atari
like levels, like that the different environments Pong would go. There'd be like one in like a soccer field.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, Pong was fun.
But fucking like at the time of the PlayStation, there were already so many consoles out, especially with Nintendo. Nintendo was owning the fucking game for so long.
Coming back with the Switch.
Yeah, for real.
Which I kind of like.
Breath of the Wild.
The first like big, like time-consuming, full attention to gaming was when I had a PSP. And I played Monster Hunter on there. I don't know if y'all played any of the Monster Hunter games.
I've heard good things.
I play World right now.
That's the new one, yeah.
But that's like my first real introduction.
So there's like 8, 9 games before that at least, and it's interesting the games they release it on. Like they'll release it on PSP, on the Wii, on like all kinds of stuff.
I had a PSP, and like that was again when I was like younger, and I wasn't big into gaming. Like it was a big deal when I got the fucking PSP because
PSP was amazing.
I don't even think I had a gaming
I got a story
system
for y'all for that
at the time, but I remember being like so unimpressed with like the video game selection for PSP.
Yeah.
It was small, and then it was a lot of just like weird just games that didn't really fucking do anything.
Says the one who had a Xbox original when 360 had been out for years.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I've been a dummy this whole time. Like when I finally got the PlayStation 3, the PS4 was massive. Like Jesus. I was behind.
You were completely behind.
So what I used my PSP for was to watch movies because you could get the movies on little discs, dude.
Facts.
I had Freddy vs. Jason on the PSP. And I watched that a lot.
Movies.
Yeah, that I had Monster Hunter, Wipeout Pure, which was like a racing game, but it's like a hover car. Ratchet and Clank, and then there's this like puzzle game where it's like a blob of mercury, and you have to like split it into pieces and change the color. Some of that stuff got.
I did play Dante's Inferno on the PSP.
I haven't played that.
Dante's Inferno.
It was fun.
I played on PS3.
I see people talk about it now, like on Reddit and stuff, and like there's not a lot of like positive like outlook towards that game. But I thought it was cool as shit.
All right, so what is the most influential game in y'all's lives? Like changed the way you've thought, or if there's any like that for you? Because I know there is for me.
So like change the way that I thought, or change the way that I thought about gaming, or both.
No, how it affect like real life, not the gaming world. Like most influential in that aspect.
I personally don't think I had any games like that, like, because I've never been a serious gamer, so none of them really like made me think too much or be like super introspective. I guess like it's always been like an entertainment thing for me.
See, for me, I'll always like attach myself to entertainment. So like when I'm watching a movie or a video game, like I really like get into it. Like it's like that's my life for the time, which is why I'm like super. So I guess just like religious with it, where like I can't play multiple games at the same time because I'll get so into one game. So when I'm playing like a certain game series, which is good, I guess back when games were like there was no Game Pass, nothing like that. You had to drop $60, which I was scared at the time, thinking, I was like, I just learned about inflation in like middle school or something. Like, if it's $60 now, what is it going to be when I'm an adult? Like I'm gonna have to pay $200
it's about to be 70.
per game.
Like the PS5 is coming out, it's about to be 70.
Hey, I've got Game Pass now. I get whatever the Microsoft gods provide me with. And Phil Spencer wants to spoon feed me. But I'd say the biggest game series for me was probably the Halo game series.
Okay.
Like just the way that, not even like the story in the game itself, but the community, the people I met. Because I don't know, I feel like it's a little less social now. But like back when like the 360, I think it was like online had been out for a little bit. It was like
I would say
peak. You meet strangers, you make friends with those people.
Xbox Live was like a pioneer in like online gaming.
I still like, it's crazy the connections I made back then on the 360. Like, I feel like I'm closer with some of those people than I am with, like, certain relatives and stuff. Because, like, it's weird. It's not real, but, like, in your head, you're going through, like, Mars. You're going to space. You're killing aliens together. It's like, yeah, my Aunt Janet and I, sure, we had Thanksgiving together, but me and Space Hunter X-37, like, we took over Neptune. We killed the Covenant. Like... We got the Sword of the Deep together, like, way closer than any family member. Because your mind sort of, like, treats it like it's real,
That's... So, if I couldn't say, for a game like having that much influence on me, it would have to be right now, Apex. I am completely obsessed with it. Like, my wife, even at the point she was like, you're an addict. She's like, you're an addict for Apex. And I don't know what it is, because I was never into, like, first-person shooters. Like, I played, like, Metal Gear Solid. You can switch between third and first. And I prefer the third-person shooters because I'm like, I like seeing character designs. I don't want to see a weapon just running around in front of you. And I just couldn't get the appeal behind that. But with Apex Legends, I don't know how. Like, I don't even know how we got it. I think my buddy Ty was like, "Hey, let's play this game." We tried it, and I think the addiction of just dropping hot,
and it came out of nowhere for free, so there's no reason not to play it.
Yeah, and fast forward now, season 7 is coming out tonight, and I'm just like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Way
so
to date the podcast.
Yeah. So
now they know where we are.
so like, just looking at that, like, I do feel like that. So, like, I've met a few people on there that I've never met in real life that I'm just, like, really close with. I get online, I'm like, oh, they're online, I'm getting online. Oh, they're about to run this, I'm about to run this. And it's like, it does give you that endorphin, like, getting in those firefights.
That's the thing, too, is, like, not even is it, like, you're experiencing these, like, what your brain is telling you is real.
Yeah.
But also, like, even if it wasn't real, it's just, like, a similar hobby, and the person you're playing with, unlike a lot of the people around you might not be playing that specific game. Like, yeah, you got friends that are gamers, but they're not playing that game with you in that mission. These random people are, so it's like, hey, maybe they're my real friends.
Yeah. You know, now that, like, you know, you bring that up, I guess I could say Rocket League is probably my most influential for the same reason.
Yeah.
Because, so, again, I was always behind the times. I didn't start online gaming until college.
Yeah.
Like, I took my PlayStation 3 with me to college, and my roommate had a PS4, and I was like, oh, I guess it's time to buy a used one. And I remember, like, being in college, and my dad still getting mad at me, like, you really think you needed that PlayStation 4? Like, you know what? Maybe I did. All right.
Maybe I did.
So, and the reason I got it, like, he introduced me to Rocket League, and at the same time, like, the Mad Max games were coming out and shit, and, and I was like, oh, I fucking love Mad Max. Give me that shit. And then, like, through Rocket League, I met my roommate's friends, and they're all from New York, and we became pretty close, and then, like, meeting random dudes, that I still follow on, like, Facebook and stuff, and now they're, like, married with kids and shit, and it's, like, cool to follow that.
The closest I was with someone in one of my old companies, so in ACO, when we went to Latvia, we were working with NATO, and we were in some sand pit for some defensive position, and I just got switched to ACO from HHC, and I was sitting in this pit with Buckley, and I didn't know him at the time, and, you know, we're there for, I think we sit in this same sand pit, just me and him, with almost zero contact with anyone else for like 72 hours. So about like 12 hours in, we barely say a word to each other, and I'm like, you know what, like, I might as well get to know this guy, like, hey, like, what are you into and stuff? Gaming, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, I like gaming too, you know? It's like, well, what type of games? Oh, yeah, I'm a big Halo fan. It's like, oh, I'm a big Halo fan. Knew off the bat, like, you're around the same age, so we probably experienced Halo at the same time. So I'm like, oh, what's your favorite Halo? Happens to be, oh, we both favorite Halo's Halo Reach. It's like, well, the community wasn't like that huge, and the people who like really got into Halo Reach got into what's called like clans, and it's like where all these geeks who like yell at their mom for trying to tell them to take out the trash get together, and they,
I can't pause it, it's online.
That's Buckley. I can picture him saying that.
Right, so me and Buckley happened to both be in Halo Reach clans at the same time, and we found out we'd interacted with each other on Xbox Live, and now we're sitting in a sand pit in the same military unit on the other side of the world, like, oh, hey, since we're sitting in the sand pit training with NATO, like, what do you do?
What, you're a sniper pussy?
And then we end up finding out, hey, like, my clan and your clan were like alliances, and
that's wild.
We fought off cock together. It's an acronym for Confederacy of Clan Killers. Everyone hated them. They thought they were better than us.
That is amazing.
It was just some 30-year-old who didn't like the fact that kids were getting together on clans, so he started cock.
That's why all these old people hate these Fortnite players, man. I thought Fortnite was cool as shit when it came out. When I was at work, and this fucking my manager told up, he's like, "There's this free game. It's called Fortnite. It's fucking badass. Check it out." I was like,
it's interesting, like, when people get introduced into the gaming world now, because it's so
a norm.
It's normal,
advanced, evolved. Like, there's so many different areas where you can get into gaming and stuff, and people are just now getting introduced, and they'll, like, because they haven't been exposed to it, like, they'll find a game now and they'll be like, this is the craziest thing ever, and then someone who's been playing for decades or whatever is like that's what you think is the craziest thing. But I mean, it really is, because, like, think about it, back 10 years ago, you thought that games with like 6 pixels on the screen had like realistic graphics.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just because we've been, you know, working our way up.
Bro,
Now they're jumping in.
Back in the
Yeah.
day, you know, you had a game that was like 3-dimensional, and that was fucking insane. Like
I felt ripped off. I went and played a game from like back then, and I'm looking at the graphics. I'm like, no, this isn't the same
This is
game.
what I
think it was
remember.
Turok. It's a game where you go like shoot dinosaurs and stuff.
I had Turok.
It was like
I had the demo for Turok 2 on
real
PlayStation
life.
2.
I remember it. I'm real life killing these dinosaurs. It's so realistic. Like I'm gutting these things, and I'm playing this game, and I'm like, I can see how many pixels make up this dinosaur,
Now
and it's
you're
not bad. But
Pissed
they're
off when the
they're-
water effects don't work in Skyrim.
Right, they're feeding us like 8K, like 120 frames a second. Like the games are more realistic than real life now, and it's
Bro.
like this is normal. Real life looks kind of fake to me.
Yeah, and it's crazy you say it, because like I started playing Resident Evil 2, and I was like playing it, and like the game looks amazing, but I still caught myself like, really? That's the best you could do with the face?
I'm
Like,
kind of
come
scared
on.
when I say things like that. It's like, okay, so in 10 years now, like, there's going to be great games out, but because I'm, like, spoiled with all this stuff, like, I'm not going to even get to, like, realize that I'm playing a great game because I'm so focused on graphics and stuff.
It's nice when you go back. Like, when I had to, like, move out of my ex's apartment and get my own place, I fucking, like, sold everything that I owned just to get, like, a couple bucks so I could fucking, like, save up, and I sold my PlayStation. And at the time, the PlayStation was huge to me because I put 40 hours a week in a fucking Rocket League online gaming like a dork.
Those are rookie numbers.
I know.
You should see my numbers when I ETS for Apex.
Oh, when we
was-
had 2 months off getting out of the army?
Yeah.
I was working.
We'll let you finish, though.
Yeah, no, I was working like 80 hours a week and still fucking like gaming 40 hours. It was stupid. But like I sold all that and then I moved into my new apartment. I didn't have anything, and so I asked my mom, who I knew had a NES with like only 2 games or 3. We had the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt combo and Legend of Zelda. And I was like, Mom, I'm gonna come get this NES right the fuck now. And she's like, okay. So I spent like 3 months before I finally bought another PlayStation. Just playing fucking Super Mario Bros. And I'm trash at it, dude.
That's a good
I never
game.
got past like
All the Mario
fucking
games.
the level 3 or whatever. And then
Game's hard.
old school Legend of Zelda kicked my ass.
That shit's hard.
Like it's hard as fuck, and it's crazy because it's fucking 8-bit, and it's 2-dimensional, and it's still just.
I really
destroying
feel
you.
like because games are so graphically intensive now, like and there's like time frames in which games have to be put out.
it's
People
easy
put
to
so
lose
much
content.
time into
Yeah.
like making the game look good or feel good or like all this extra stuff that the actual story and the feeling you feel when you play the game is diminishing because there's less time put into that. I remember looking back at like this is just
Division.
because a game I like Halo. It was transferred from Bungie to 343. Bungie came up with the Halo. They came out with 1, 2, 3. Reach, ODST, like all the games that I think are like the greatest in the franchise. 343 took it over. They came out with 4 and 5, and they're like horrible to me. And they're not horrible games. They're actually like amazing games. But like compared to like something that
They're
I think is
standard
so
for them,
great,
yeah.
right? But if you go and look at like the documentaries of the people when they're making the games, like when you look at the Bungie documentaries, they're discussing like, all right, how do we want to make the players feel? Like, we want to make them feel like this when we're designing this level or this enemy. We want to make them feel like they're actually taking down some enemy, triumphing over this. We want to make them feel like they're a part of the main character, that it's them. And if you look like a 343 documentary, they're like, this flame decal on this gun just doesn't look bright enough. Like, up the contrast. We got to make it look badass. Like, but they're not like focusing on the actual
gameplay.
feeling
And,
that
like-
the player feels when they're playing it, and you can really like see that.
And on that, so like at the time, because I had Halo 2 on my original
Great
Xbox,
game.
when Xbox 360 was a thing. I never finished the story because again, like I didn't.
Shame
know,
on you.
I didn't know games could be beat.
I've never played a Halo game.
Shame
I'm
on
sorry.
you. We'll be doing something later.
They're so in my opinion.
Fuck you.
But
Hey, chant this man.
But like at that time, like when I played games, I would skip the cutscenes. I just
Bruh,
I
what are
just
the
like the
problem?
gameplay. Because
Oh my
I was
God.
like,
I feel like
ah,
I'm just
That
getting
still like
insulted
drives
over
me up
and
a
over.
wall. When I see my wife do it, I'm just like,
I was that guy. I was like, I don't know who I am or where I am. All I know is I must kill. But fucking Halo 2 was the one where I was like, I would watch them, and what sold it for me was the level or the scene where like they have that fucking Covenant bomb, and Master Chief's like, let's
Have
give
you
it back
seen the
to him.
Just go play Metal Gear
cutscenes
Solid 4,
for
man.
Halo 2 anniversary?
I feel like you've probably showed them to me.
Probably. They're remade and like
Yeah.
4K
'Cause
basically.
I tried playing the Master Chief Collection, and like I did the thing where I was like, I'm gonna start at the beginning, and I'm gonna work all the way through because Bartel had given me like just a spare Xbox One that he had because he has.
That's the thing is like,
and I
I don't know.
can't do it. I fucking like I tried
You're
playing
past
Halo
the point
1,
of
and
being
it was
able
like,
to enjoy it for what it is. Playing it when it comes out at the time it comes
I'm
out.
sure
like,
if I played it,
that's
in
the real experience.
1985 when it
That's
came
like-
out,
so
I
that
You would have
loved
been.
it.
So that now that
Life
brings us
changed.
back. So that saying that Final Fantasy VII Remake. People playing that when it first came out, I think I was a couple years behind the curve on it. I think it was out, but it already had been out for a while when 8 and 9 had just came out. So with what they've done with the game now, I love it. There's gripes here and there, but I'm just like, hey, I'm always happy for anything that's coming back, getting refreshed, and like being represented for yourself. As long as they try to be, for the most
Like
part,
solid
truthful.
remasters and shit. Yeah.
And having that, I wonder how someone who's played Final Fantasy VII when it first came out, and that being mind blowing, for it to be like, yo, this game is 3D on PlayStation 1. And then coming now, 20 plus years later, you have a remake of probably some people that are my age, one of their favorite games, and be like, dang, like, did they do it justice? Did they handle it correctly? And being like, having a new generation come in and be like, oh my god, the graphics, and not really care about the story. Like, bro, you're missing out on like what this did, because this game is a pioneer in the sense of being 3D games. And you were like, you're getting all this beautifulness, and it's a great storyline and a fleshed out storyline on stuff. We got like the whole Midgar arc was literally like 10 hours?
It's like reading a good
game.
book.
Yeah.
Like, there's no graphics.
Yeah.
You can still have the amazing book with an amazing story. The gaming just allows you to visualize it, and then you can expand on that in your own imagination.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, people just don't have an imagination, partially because, like, there's less and less of a need for it. The better games get visually, the less we have to come up with our own visuals in our mind.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, back when books was the height of entertainment, like, people's imaginations were so vast because they have to come up with everything. And now you're being fed everything. Your imagination is as far as people feed it to you.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Especially with just how big the entertainment industry is, like gaming, movies, all that shit. Where
Yeah.
you can just sit in front of a screen and do whatever.
So, I know you're not a hardcore gamer, so this question probably won't even apply to you.
I'll do
But-
my best.
What games of yours have you put in like way over 1,000 hours? Like real hardcore games that you've put in like ungodly amounts of time
Fucking
into.
Rocket League. I've guaranteed I've put probably 2,000 to 3,000 hours into Rocket League.
There you go. Okay.
I'm not good, but I put a lot of time in.
I think mine would have to be Final Fantasy 14 Online, and probably Apex. Apex is probably a strong number 2 in my, if not number 1, because I'm like, I get in these weird rhythms, like, because my thing with games is I'm 100% a story-based guy. So I will always draw towards RPGs,
It's interesting
regardless.
because I'm the opposite. I'm all about gameplay. Like the gameplay
I'm
has to be
100% story. Like, I love lore. I love exploring. So that's why, like, my childhood was mostly RPGs. Like, that's all I care about. And you gotta think at the same time, like, games were expensive, like, even back then. So I was like, the most bang for my buck is an RPG. Like, I know I'm going to get 40 plus hours
You're
out
gonna
of
get
this
a lot
game.
of content,
I'm going to
yeah,
get a
for
lot.
sure.
And that's why, like, my mindset's kind of like I've always been story-based driven, lore-driven, and Final Fantasy 14 gives me that because I'm just like, all right, so I run as a monk in the game. That's my main. I main a monk in Final Fantasy 14 Online, and then I secondary a scholar when I want to queue dungeons, because when you run DPS and you try to queue dungeons for the most part, and it's an older dungeon, it's going to take like 20, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour to queue in there. You queue as a mage or a tank, you're going to get in there super quick. So I always do dungeons as a scholar, which is a healer, and then I do the main storyline as my solo stuff as my monk.
Damn, I wish I knew what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm lost. This
Wild.
is all-
You put
I know
Wild?
you're lost, but
I'm
I know
lost.
these terms from the other games I play. You probably don't even know what these terms
I'm
are.
picking up like because I've played fucking like online games.
So you
where-
know
where
what
have-
DPS means
You have
then.
DPS and tanks and whatever. I don't.
He also, I thought
I've
my
dabbled
second
in
healer.
Overwatch, and that's
I
my
dabble in
fucking.
Overwatch. So my second is a healer. So I play support when I play like raids and everything. But like going off from that, it's like I've always been super immersed in. Hey, I'm like, oh shit, I can pick my own race. For some reason, I have a cat fetish. I'm always a cat guy.
So you're probably Khajiit's.
Yes, it's Skyrim. Yes, I am. I'm 100%. I'm a Wraith Guard in Final Fantasy 14, but I'm like, I have my monk clan, I have my class, I have my clan, and this is going back even saying like how your Halo when you had clans. Being a newbie to Final Fantasy Online and never playing an MMO in my life, I remember running around Ul'dah and this player sent me a message, and she was like, "Hey, you want to join my free company?" And I was like, "What is that?" Like, I'm level 16, like never played this. I'm playing it because my buddy Alex from my old unit's like, "Hey, come on, let's get it." And he was like, "Get it." I'm like, "I love Final Fantasy games, so I'm gonna play it." So I got it. Got a bunch of my buddies from my old unit to play. So I'm running around Ul'dah, lost like a newbie, because you got the little icon that kind of like gives away like you're a newbie. And then my level's only like probably like 8 or 9. And she was like, "You want to join my free clan, my free company?" And I was like, "What is that?" She was like, "Oh, it's just like a group of people we play together, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Sure, whatever." So I joined it, not thinking anything of it. Fast forward, say like a month later, her name was Darkness. She would send you messages like, "Hey, how you doing?" Every time you log on, she's like, "Hey, how you doing? What's up?" Like start conversations with you. I don't know how to use the chat box, so for the whole entire month,
so for
the whole month, she thought I was just like dissing her. She was like, maybe she doesn't want to talk. And then like I finally figured her out, and I'm just like, oh my bad, like I just figured out how to use a chat box. So it was like it was crazy to think because like she helped me become like a good player in that game. But it's like it was the first time being in that environment where you had a clan leader.
It's like being
positive.
a baby when you're about to learn English.
Yeah.
But you already know English. You just can't speak it yet.
Yeah, and it was so dope because she would run raids with you. She took me on like hunts. I got one of my legendary mounts with her, and then I got my buddy to join, who was even like he was like a vet compared to me. He was like, "Nah, I don't join clans because all they want you to do is like just join their clan, do raids. You have to be on timeline." And Darkness was like, "Nah, it's not like that." She was like, "You can do whatever you want." She's like, "We're just here, cool, hang out, like just do whatever you want." And we're like, "All right, cool." Fast forward now, I've been playing Final Fantasy for 3 years now, and she would like, I remember being a newbie, and she was doing the Palace of the Dead. This is like in the 3rd expansion, and I am still in the 1st. And she was like, "Oh, I have this like gown. You want this?" She would just give me minions. Like minions are like little things that can follow you. She would give me like bridles for your chocobo. Like, "Oh, here's this from this palace." She's like, "I don't want it." She was like, "I was just going to sell it on the market." She's like, "But you can have it for free." And she would do that a lot. And I was like, so I'd get really cool gear from her just because she was like, "Yeah, you can have this." And she would make me like legendary gear because she was maxed out all the classes. And it was like such a good environment. Like she made me log back in. Like even when we left for deployment, I remember like I was feeling bad. I was like, "Oh man, I'm not going to Final Fantasy 14. I said my goodbyes to the clan. Like, "Hey, I'll see you on 9 months. I'm going on deployment." And then like I came back and it was like when I got home, that was the first thing. Like I need to sign on to Final Fantasy 14. I got to tell everybody I'm alive and I'm back.
And then I'll say hey to my family.
Yeah, it pretty much was. It was exciting though. It was like it's one of those games that like play the vital point in my life, just like community wise. Like there's just great people in there that I don't know them in real life, but I genuinely care about their life because we do talk about her stuff. Like she's went through hardships, I've went through hardships, and we like help ourselves through all those situations. We even had hardships when like people she's literally like had this clan, like the clan almost stolen from her 3 times. She almost been banned, and like she's the sweetest person in the world. I'm like, why would anybody ever do that to you? And it's still here. She's like, and she's been playing for like 8+ years or however long the game's been out.
I think it's interesting the aspect behind like internet trolls. They're like, well, it's because anonymity. They feel safe behind it and stuff, so they feel like they can say whatever they want.
Oh yeah.
But on the opposite end of the spectrum, in terms of like friends and stuff like that, because of anonymity, you can also say whatever you want, and like you can become closer with people online than you can in real life because you don't.
You can be like
fear
your truest self, for the
right?
most part.
And you can just get really 100% open, say what you feel like, because you're never going to meet this person like until you do in a sandpit in Latvia. But
sandpit, that is wild. That is amazing.
You can say whatever you want, and I'd say for me, I remember when I had first gotten exposed to what clans were. So I'd played Halo Reach because I played Halo 3 a lot. It was gifted to me by my uncle And me and my older brother used to play it all the time. We didn't really play online. We just played campaign, trying to like find the hidden skulls, or just like explore different parts of the mission, see how good we could get. But I remember getting Halo Reach because it's the next one. Like supposedly it's even better, and I started to get in online by then. And I remember I was playing multiplayer, and I'd also play like custom games too. And so in custom games, you can create your own game in Forge, like make their own map, their own game type and stuff. So you can create basically a whole new game within the game. And so you can experience even more. And, the community will go crazy.
I do remember hearing about that.
And so I'll play like what we call custom game nights, where people's got like playlists full of like different games within Halo that other people have created, like whether it's like cops and robbers or like high school.
It's like making your own mini games.
Right. And they get really fun and people have a great time. And I remember, so the only hard part though is because like trying to get a full lobby, because it's more fun. Full lobby is 16 players. And so like not always you got like 16 people online, so you're just inviting random people to try and get in, and like hopefully they're cool. And so typically it'd be like 30 minutes to an hour before we can find like a full lobby. Well, I remember inviting this one guy, and I'm like, hey, we're trying to get a full lobby. He's like the third person in, it's probably going to take like an hour. And he's like, oh, no worries. Like, I'm a part of a clan. I'll just invite all of them. And he just invites a full lobby within like 5 seconds. They've all got like matching emblems and colors and everything. And they all like know each other. They play together every day. And I'm like, what is this?
What?
Like, and so my only reason for wanting to join is like, okay, like I want to join this. Be quick to get players together. Just a group of people. I didn't realize the extent to how serious they took it. Little did I know I was going to take it even more serious. But I'm just like, oh, this is a quick way to get people in the game with me. So I'm like, hey, what's this like clan you're in? Like, they're like, oh yeah, you want to join? Like, you can join us. Just got to wear this emblem, this color. We got to make sure you're a good player. I'm like, oh, it seems a bit excessive, but okay. I'm just trying to find a group of people to play together. I didn't really know they actually have those too, like these gaming communities where you can like find people to play with.
Yeah.
So I just got like sucked into like this cult, and definitely indoctrinated. So
that was how I met a lot of my.
A couple months later, I find out like you're not allowed to be in multiple clans, conflicts of interest. Like people are yelling at me, you're not in that clan, you're in our clan. I'm like, oh no. And then like a couple months after that, I'm leaving a clan because I feel like I can do better. I start my own clan. I recruit them. I build this website and stuff. I'm like, I've got the best clan out there. I took 60% of my old clan because I'm better than them at leading. And I'm like, I've got meetings going on and stuff, forums online. Like, I'm getting intense.
This
like,
is wild.
It was just crazy, like, how that just, like, changed. And then because of that, like, the people I played with then, I still kind of check in on now. It's like one of them's about to graduate from West Point.
Nice.
Yeah, the other one's doing crack in the woods. You never know who these clan people are gonna go.
You really don't, man.
But I mean, it was just such a crazy switch in terms of what gaming was for me in just a short period of time. And then from then I took gaming like way more serious, whereas it was just like, hey, good time with my brother or whatever. And then it was like actually immersive, like I'm getting into it, and really changed what gaming was for me, which actually it had pros and cons. Pros because of that, I could really experience such a crazy life. But whenever there was like a lull in between like good games, or I got tired of one and there wasn't something else, because of how good it was, when there wasn't anything good, it's like life was kind of boring.
Yeah.
And it's just like made things worse. It's like, man, no good games out. Like forget like life exists, and I feel like that would probably be like one of the cons of letting gaming take so much of your life. Is like,
how do you feel like bringing up how much like there's a lull with like no good games? How do you feel like about the oversaturation of like today's world, like gaming?
How it's like, game year after year after year.
Like you can literally blink and there's a new game out. There's probably a new game coming out like in the next month or two, like next week.
I really don't like it.
I think with the
because
especially with the franchise gaming.
Right now, there's more games coming out than ever before.
I can't keep up
yet
anymore.
I have less games that I play than ever before, and less good games than ever before. Like, finding a good game is hard. Yes. I find I just go back to games from 8-9 years ago, and that's what I play right now. Is I play games that came out back then.
I'm really kind of stuck in with playing like old genres that I know, like old franchises, or I am like, this is where it's kind of like the era of YouTube and them talking about game and
yes.
seeing in gameplay. Like, that plays a huge factor on me purchasing a game nowadays. Like, I think how we've gotten to the point of DLCs, like, that's a big like question mark for me, and like how they double dip and get more money out of you. It's like, oh, so you bought the game, and I can actually see that there's content missing, and then you give me a DLC.
The moment that the gaming industries realized how much we put into games and realized how much they could suck people dry.
Oh.
Because, like, people love games, you know? And so if they start charging for parts of the game, like, make a great game, but you're not going to give it all and you can start charging, like, they start dabbling in that, realize, oh, you know, we'll just do it like a little bit, you know, we don't want to, like, mess up the community too much, we'll just take some of the game away and charge everyone for, like, a later portion, or we'll add on, we'll just keep adding, you know, so we'll still put in work, make the game bigger.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it turns into, like, nowadays, it's like,
microtransactions.
oh, we're just going to give you a free game, but it's really just a way to get more people to play, and they charge for everything.
That's
and
the biggest.
People will put thousands of dollars into these games. Like, not one random person, you know, in their mom's basement. Everyone is putting money into these games.
As much money as I probably put into Apex, I'm like, the game is free. And then I buy a season pass, because I'm like, oh, I want all new skins. Then they have the LTM come up, and I'm like, if you buy everything in LTM, it could be like $160. Seasonal skins, you're like, oh man, skins dope, but they put them in bundles of like $60. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to be able to spend all that. I strictly buy skins that I think are dope, and only if I main the character. Like, so if I have like a set 3 people I rotate through, I'm like, I play y'all, so I'll get y'all. But that still adds up. So if I had to think about it,
right,
like,
and then without you even noticing,
$100.
you spent that much money, whereas, like, you used to buy full games for 60.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this is rough. But you don't even realize how much more money you're putting in now.
Yeah, I've literally probably put more money, like, collectively, I've probably bought like 20 games over.
6-year-old me is just peeing his pants right now. Back to the question I had asked forever ago, the game I had put so much time into, not even like on purpose. It was because it was when 343 took the mantle from Bungie for making the next Halo game. I was like waiting, you know? I'm like, I just can't wait till the next one comes out. And Bungie created a new game, the Destiny game series. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a go. You know, it's not Halo, so I'm just going to play this until Halo comes out. And then little did I know I'd have like 1,000 to 2,000 hours in the first Destiny, and like played that game more than any other game. And it was
Destiny is amazing. I'll give it.
It was because of the amount of time and effort they required you to put into certain things to get stuff out. That, like, either it scares you away and you don't play it, but if you do enjoy it, then it just really pulls you in. You got to go all in or nothing.
The hit or miss for Destiny for me was, and they've corrected it a lot in D2, was
exactly what you're talking about, charging for extra DLCs.
Kind of that, but I got to a point where it's like you have to enjoy the grind. Like Final Fantasy 14, you're grinding. I know that, and I enjoy that grind. The grind in Destiny, I didn't enjoy that grind. I didn't feel like I wanted to, like, oh, I need to go back to this planet, redo the same missions all over again, run the same routes again. And that's what, at a certain point, I started, I was just like, I'm running the same routes.
That was one of the things I enjoyed about the multiplayer for Destiny, is, like, it was actually really good gunplay and stuff. Yeah. And so I actually played a lot of that, because the story was pretty crap at first, and then they didn't release a raid for a while. Because the Vault of Glass was the first raid, and they didn't release it with the base game.
Which is trash.
So the story was just gone. I'm like, oh, what is this? Multiplayer was pretty fun, but it was when they released that first raid that I realized, like, how intense it could get. You know, you need 6 players, all with good communication. Every single one of you has to be great at the game, know how every level works, every aspect. I'd never played a game where it took everyone's complete full attention, communication, and effort at the same time for hours on end. Like,
for like 6 hours.
Games never had, like, required that much dedication from a group of people to work together. Like, because then that requires you to have, like, good friends that are good at gaming and stuff, which made me, like, have to reach out more. I had to, like, make these friends with all these hardcore gamers, which is actually pretty cool. And that's why I spent so much time with that game, because I made these friends. And, you know, peer pressure is really real.
It really is.
Especially if it's like an easy, fun thing to do, like gaming. So I got all these hardcore gamer friends now, and they're always like, "Hey, now we need one more for the raid." It's like, all right, well, there's the next 7 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and commit myself.
And that was why I couldn't get into like the Division when it came out. Kind of like touching on what both you guys said. Because I like my roommate and I, because I came out when I was in college, we thought it was going to be the dopest fucking shit
I loved it when it
ever.
came out.
It was advertised very well.
It was advertised super well. So we both bought it like at the same time to hop on and play, and we were going ham as fuck for
The
like,
Dark
for
Zone?
like 3 hours. And like we're getting into it, and like I was playing it by myself, and then I realized that like first off, every mission was the same. In my opinion, like it all felt
You started running the same routes.
You run the same routes, and then you like what you were saying, Jarvis, is that you have to play with people. Like you need people with you. And at the time, like I wasn't online gaming a lot. I had my fucking roommate, so unless I was gonna hop on with my roommate and his friends, who were all level fucking 30 and 40, and I'm level 8, like I wasn't like it wasn't enjoyable. And then they get in like I don't know.
Bullet sponge. That was the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing. In Division, was the enemies were bullet sponge. I'm like, you're thinking some level of realism. Like, bro, I just emptied this 249 clip into you. Why are you still standing? Why is a headshot not killing you?
You know what I think is interesting? We were talking about in the last podcast language and how like different cultures understand language differently. Well, I think that 100% applies to the culture of gaming and how communication works with gamers. Like we talk differently, think differently, and speak differently, and like the things we say, like our PC culture would be like hate crimes in certain countries for like gamers and stuff. And I think it changes the way we think. And so like when we're going day-to-day life, people tell us like, hey, you can't say that or do that. It's like, well, what are you talking about? When I was raiding that village and killing 600 people, like I could say whatever I want, you know?
Right.
It's like, you know, you get disconnected from your life, but you have that culture with all these other real people and y'all all talk like that and feel like that. And it's just normal for you.
Yeah.
And so you create this culture of communication that doesn't exist, and it sort of disconnects you from everyone who's not in that world.
Catch yourself making
That was like my
inside
Final
joke.
Fantasy, like, a little run. You guys were like, I don't know.
And that's the
what
thing
you're
too,
talking
is like you don't even have to be outside the gamer world. Every like
It all
Like the
specific
Halo for
game
me,
type
like,
and game genre
they all
and
have
like
their own
series,
niche.
they have their own cultures. Yeah, exactly. And so like when you find someone who played that, and even in real life, it's like, oh dang, like it's been a long time since I've met someone who's actually like someone I get.
Yeah, that was part of the reason why like Benzie and I connected so well, was because we were both fucking like just massive Rocket League fans, and like I'm sure that when we were talking, everyone else was like, what the fuck are they on about? And we're like, oh, what a save, what a save.
Yeah.
See, before video games, everyone did the same shit. They either worked at the fucking factory, or they farmed, or they're in the military, you know, or they're working in an office. Like, there's so many jobs, but it's all just like, you know, we all gotta
now it's all
grind for
Farmville
work
and
and
Call
stuff.
of Duty and
And so
Yeah, right?
everybody's on the same page, you know.
Trucker Simulator 19.
But now it's like, you know, I've got Star Quest 73 galaxies of like nebulas, and it's like, what the fuck is that?
Or like fucking.
There's games that you don't even know
You know,
exist, and there's a whole group of people who play that religiously.
Mac is playing fucking like Space Station 13, and he's trying to tell us about it. And there's just fucking. I don't understand
was
it. I'm
a-
trying to be interested in him because he's my friend, but fuck.
There was a game that I remember me and and Beasley was talking about. Me and Beasley was talking about over deployment, and like Beasley is super athletic. He's very career goal minded. He's like always thinking about like how to be a self entrepreneur, but he is obsessed with this game, the PC game that's like all about space exploration, like colonizing, like going across the universe. And I'm like,
Is it fucking EVE Online or some shit?
yes, that's it, yeah. And I'm like, I would never expect that from him. He was like, oh, I love this game. I play this. He's like, I have my clan, this, that, and the third. And he was like, break this game down to me. And like, since I know game culture, I'm like, wow. But like, he would go in so in depth, and like, it tells you like the little nostalgia you have, that why people are so drawn to video games. That gives you the sense of, I want to travel outer space.
I think
I'm
a big
like,
thing too is just like
Yeah.
regular life now. You know, there's not as much like adventure exploration. Like, there's no like crazy war going on. You know, people are just like doing their day-to-day things, and there's this easy outlet that you can access where you can go experience this
get your
stuff.
escapism on.
And it's funny because back to what you were saying, like you would have never expected it and stuff, because you know it just doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
Well, so back when I was getting into clans and Halo Reach and stuff, I figured, this is crazy. I even know it. I'm going crazy, and I'm just gonna keep this to myself. I'm gonna really enjoy it, but I've got this whole group of friends that don't interact with me in real life. I can just keep them there in my other life here, and so I'm over here like I've got like a couple of websites. I'm working on my YouTube channel and stuff. I'm like 12 years old or whatever, and like this clan is like everything to me. My parents don't even know what's going on. They're like, hey, you probably shouldn't play more than like an hour of video games. That's like them sentence me to like the Auschwitz or something. Sorry. But that's what it felt like. And because of how much it was to me. And then like, I think they probably would have been.
We're Jewish.
That it would have been as big of a deal if I probably would have explained like how much it was to me.
Yeah.
But they just like it wouldn't have even known because I was keeping it to myself. And like one time it like slipped out. My brother like said something about like it because he knew because he was playing games with me too about how I'd like designed some websites for the clan I was in. My parents are like, you're designing a website? I'm like, well, I mean, I've got like 7 up right now.
Damn, caught on the one.
And I like show them and stuff, and they're like all crazy impressed. And it's like, man, like I didn't even try. And I'm like, and it just really made me think like whether or not I should be like telling people about this or not. It's like the less you tell people about what you do and like your capabilities, nobody's ever gonna know. You kind of have to be vocal to get yourself out there. And I think it's like relates sort of to real life too. Is there's plenty of talented, skilled people out there that just sort of keep to themselves.
Don't say anything.
Yeah. And
something I always think about is like like the world's strongest man competition where you got fucking like Thor Bjornsson or whatever, and he's deadlifting like however much he does to win. And it's like
Eddie Hall's actually the
Eddie Hall, fucking
500
asshole
kilograms.
putting 2.5 pound plates on at the end just to be a dick about it. But anyway,
hey, it wins the win.
It wins
Inch
the
or
win.
a mile.
But like,
That
what I'm getting at is not like they're the fucking world's strongest men, but they're the world's recorded strongest men.
Yeah, that's like that's always the age-old saying. It was like there's probably somebody better. He was like, there's probably somebody better than Jordan right now, just never made it to the NBA.
Yeah. He just fucking plays on the streets, or like the guy who's stronger.
Even
than Eddie.
Logic dropped a dope line. He was like, the greatest rapper alive is probably packing. He's like refilling my produce. I was like, God dang, like that.
Yeah.
That's probably 100% true. He's like, you just never know. He was like,
what we're saying is that all 3 of us are the greatest at something alive, and y'all just don't know yet.
yeah, we just don't. No, I don't even know yet. I'm still trying to figure that shit out.
Tell you, big.
But this podcast is going to get us out there. We'll be the greatest.
We'll see.
And y'all will all see how good we are
Once we get a
something.
name.
Once we get a name. What's the hardest game you guys ever played?
Hardest game. Okay.
Fuck. I tell you, the one that pissed me off the most.
Quake 2, PlayStation 1, because you had to restart every time without a memory card. I think the furthest I ever got was like mission 3 or 4. Sure, I was like, I don't know how old I was, anywhere between like 3 and 9, maybe 6. That's how good my memory is right now. But at the time, that was some difficult stuff.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think it's all relative to like when you played it. It's like now I'm playing through Resident Evil 2, and I'm the remastered version. I'm having a tough time. Like the game's like it's not
Tossy speedrunners.
Yeah, it's not a type of game that like it's a lot of backtracking and like keeping track of shit. So like I honestly fucking play with like a walkthrough, like going on
Hey,
next
nothing
to
wrong
me.
with that.
It's just so I can, because I want to enjoy it, but I'm a fucking idiot. So I'm like having a hard time. But I think the most, like the game that hit me the hardest when I had just bought my PlayStation 4, and I'm like actually trying to like dive into gaming. Like I'd probably only beaten like 10 games up to that point over the years. And I fucking
Kept a tally book.
My catalog's too long.
It was so that's the thing. It was so small that I could probably list off the games that I'd beaten. The games that I've beaten to this day. I don't play a lot. But fucking, so I got Bloodborne. Not really know what it was.
You don't even have to give me
But I
started,
got
bro.
Bloodborne, and I'm playing it, and I like, it takes me fucking forever to get through the first little baby boss, and I'm like, oh god damn, this game
can't get any
sucks.
worse.
I'm having fun, but fuck. And then I get to the second boss, and I probably spent like 20 minutes on it, and I was like, all right, nope, game's gone. Took it to GameStop, traded it in. I was out. I was done.
It's free right now. It's free on the PlayStation Store market right now.
I fucking don't.
Hey, they chopped 23 games.
I don't have a PlayStation anymore.
All right. I say we call this towards the end of the podcast.
Yes.
We got
definitely.
some great conversation in. Come up with a name before the next episode. We have to.
In
All
the
right.
basement.
Yeah.
I think that's a good in the basement.
I guess
come
they'll
back.
find out if that was the name or not.
No, I was thinking because we're in the basement, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't have
'Cause
to
I
like
feel
sell
like-
us out like
I
that.
feel like these conversations, you know, it's reminiscent of like back in like early high school when you go to
In
your
the
friend's
basement.
house, you guys all going down to the basement, and you just
basement.
bullshit. I'm Blake. I'm
What do
in
you
the
think?
basement.
In
I'm
the-
Blake.
in
I'm
the
Jarvis.
basement.
I'm Greg, and we're in the basement.
We'll come back to it. It has a
You
nice
know what?
ring.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it has a nice
Like,
ring.
yeah, but maybe, but yeah.
But yeah,
Maybe.
Maybe.
All right, well, this has been In the
maybe
Basement.
needs maybe means no. I've talked to my mother before.
All right, goodbye, y'all.